Hello, we are Black Noise, or two-thirds of Black Noise. Kieran is on his way back from a few gigs in Taiwan. He should be here a bit later on.
Currently in transit somewhere, I'd imagine.
Or in customs.
Or in customs, or in custody.
With a man with a sort of glove handling his bits and pieces, maybe.
Dave's dream.
If he's lucky. Anyway, my name's Dave.
My name's Dave.
And we're also known as Aquasky, believe it or not.
Yeah,
and,
you may recognise our ugly mugs from Aquasky from the last, how many years now?
15 years.
15 years, but we've been working together for longer than that actually. Me and Dave first started working together for 17 years, so I think we've still got some of the original equipment from those early sessions of 17 years ago.
That's
knocking around in this studio somewhere. But
101 over there.
Yeah, the 101, that joined us on a session back in those early days, pre-Aquasky. We've got, just noticed, I think the 950s.
The trusted 950.
The old 950s down here somewhere. So that is the original 950 that did all the early Aquasky, all the pre-Aquasky gear. That's the one, and we'd never get rid of that. And then we've got the 3000 that's still there, the Nord rack unit.
Vintage keys, all
Vintage
the
keys,
ambient, jazzy jungle stuff was done on that.
Yeah, all the early Aquasky moving shadow. Where are we? These two bits of kit here did most of the sounds. But Fender over there, which is we actually did an album for Mr. Bongo, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Mr. Bongo, Disorient, and that was a house album by it's Tenth and Parker, another Aquasky alias, and that joined us on that album quite a lot. So yeah, still got bits and bobs from the old days, but most of it's been compact into a little box called a computer these days. So, but yeah, there we are. There's a brief tour of the studio.
And today we are going to be working on a track that Nick Thayer started in Australia. Nick's just put out an album on our Passenger label called Just Let It Go, or Just Let Go.
Just Let It Go.
Just Let It Go.
Yeah. So Nick's Melbourne based. We've known Nick for many years now. Really nice guy. And he's sort of holding down Melbourne really. I mean, everyone knows of him over there, and he's got a great following over here. I believe he works a lot with DJ Yoda and Ace Skills. He's down with that little crowd. So he's making good circles in lots of different genres as well, which is the main thing, which is what we're about. It's about, just experimenting and bringing genres together and see what will come out of the other side, and Nick's very much on that vibe as well. So hopefully with what he sent us, we can create something that's...
Fingers crossed. And there's a third piece to the puzzle where we're hopefully getting Wizard Sleeve in the studio later on today.
Our
Lex
friends.
and Mike.
Yeah, Wizard Sleeve. It's we did a track last year for Southern Fried under the Black Noise name, and it was called Me Plus You, and Ministry of Sound heard it, they liked it, and they had a track called Riverside, and so they wanted to make it a commercial hit, and they liked the vocals Wizard Sleeve done, so they got the vocals and they chucked it on and mashed it up and released it, and went to number 2, went in the charts for 3 or 4 months and nearly gone gold, which was nice. It was nice for us.
So we need to get the tune in a pretty much almost finished state for Wizard Sleeve, so by the time they get down they can write their lyrics around it. So yeah, let's go. Right, so the first thing we do, the most important thing, Nick sent us his parts via You Send It, which I've got on the computer, and the first thing we do...
Generally the first thing we do when we do a collaboration is what Dave's about to do now.
The most creative part of the process, we grab his parts and stick them in the recycle bin, okay, so we can start fresh without anything clouding our sort of brains.
Because we're very creative people, you see. We don't like other people, getting in on our space. It's not productive for us.
I mean, we might keep his parts for our sample library. We might use them on another track. Or
probably just completely rip them off. Because that's generally what we do when we run a label. We just nick people's parts and their tunes and just make our own tunes out of it. It's a lot easier that way. We don't have to be that creative.
But for the purposes of this project, we've loaded Nick's parts into Cubase. He actually sent us a very rough demo of the track, which is basically sort of 8 16-bar bits blocked out, and I'll give you a little play of his parts.
Oh!
But it's just some ideas at the moment that Nick sent over. So it's basically just like a groove at the moment, and we loaded all the different elements into Cubase as separate tracks. We've actually done nothing with them. If I play them all together, it's just like a bit of a mess. But what we try and do with a remix or a collaboration is pick out sort of key parts that sort of we think are interesting that we can build on. And what we had a listen already, and the sort of main bits that we seem to like is this. It's quite simple, but it's just a sort of tom riff, a percussive sound that he's played in like a riff. It's like an offbeat riff. So I'll play again. So we're going to use that as a starting block and just build on that. You know, see what we come up with. Then we're going to combine some of his other elements as we go along.
So I hope we can do a good job for you, Nick.
Yeah. So yeah, first of all, we have certain sort of percussion sounds, drum sounds that we like to use. So I'm just going to load in our sort of normal bass drum, which is just it's a nice bass drum we've used for a while.
Nice fat round bass drum.
Actually, I might just colour code the parts just to help us out. I'm going to make all his percussion one colour. Let's have a look.
No, I don't like that colour, Dave.
No?
No. Pink.
Okay.
There, that's better.
And then his melody parts. Let's give them.
What do you reckon? What goes well with pink? Blue.
Blue. Blue's
That's
good.
it, number 9.
And then just the sort of the effect sounds.
That's got to be a wild colour, Dave.
What about
What's the most?
yellow?
No. What about?
You can actually do. I've never done this before. You can play with the colours.
Oh, crikey. Have you got black?
Black. I've never used black before. No. What about a dark blue?
Got a dark blue.
There we go.
Or black.
Let's see what happens now if I do that. Oh.
There we go. Look. Oh, we've never done that, so that's a first
And
for us anyway.
I've already grouped all the beats into a beats folder. So we're going to listen. Oh. And I've grouped his sort of synths, melodies into another sort of group. And all the effect noises are in the effects sort of folder. Sounds like a fly buzzing around one of those things you see in butchers that kills the flies.
Yeah, blue thing, isn't they? What are they called? Yeah, blue fly catcher.
So let's load in our bass drum. So yeah, we've got a bass drum. We're just going to chop it up. We've been pretty boring today. It's going to be a straight 4/4 beat to start off with. So we're just pasting in our bass drums on the beat, so the music police won't come bothering us. You know, it should be quite easy. Right. Let's check that. There we go.
Hey!
So yeah, and we're quite lucky. We put out a sample pack on Loop Masters a few years ago, and they kindly gave us
as Aquasky.
As Aquasky, yes, the Aquasky breakbeat electro sample pack, and they've given us access to all their sample packs they release, which is quite nice. So what I'm going to do is just have a quick look for just like a breakbeat sort of thing to go over the top of the bass drum. We're going to keep quite a lot of Nick's drum sounds, but the ones he sent us are quite sort of drum machine sounding, which is cool because that's quite a nice sound. But we just want something to go over the top, just to sort of fill the gaps, make it a bit more sort of funky, a bit more flowing. So I better label that one, bass drum. I'll stick it out in the beats group. we go. Just going to make another audio track. And yeah, we have got quite a lot of samples from Loop Master. We don't use them that often, but sometimes, you know, for the purposes, you know, we haven't got much time to do something. It's quite nice to.
We do quite often go for the vinyl, which is all kind of around there and down here. But that's just a small fraction of. I mean, that's just a minuscule fraction of the amount of vinyl we actually have. So that's always a very good source. But obviously, we don't. We don't encourage you to sample other people's records, of course. Foolish that.
Yeah, there's a good one Lou Masters put out recently. It's the Joey. Where is it called now? Joey Youngman. Yeah, Jacked Out Future House, and there's so many sample packs around, and there's the quality ones just stand out because a lot of them are just you've heard it all before, just regurgitating the same old sounds. But this was quite cool. I mean, I've actually heard some sounds in here that, you know, some producers put out recently in their tracks. I mean, some tracks are even completely based on some of these samples, which is, you know, it's a sign of a good sample pack. Right, so some Rex loops.
And that's something we used to always get. We did our sample pack with the Ragga Twins, did a lot of vocals on ours, and we always keep getting sent tracks by people. I've done a track with the Ragga Twins, and then we listen to them and we're like, actually that's all off our sample CD, which is no bad thing, it's just, you know, props, but...
Right, that's a cool one. And then there's also another one, we went through these a bit earlier. This one here's got a nice open hi-hat. So I'll load these two in. So we've got a couple of drum loops in. This one is the breakbeat, I think. So that's the one that's got a nice open hi-hat. So we just chop out the open hi-hat. Then we just copy that across. Let's make it a bit shorter. Cool, so we've got an open hi-hat, and this is the actual main. Let's just label this. Put it into the beats group. Okay. This is the breakbeat. Putting into the beats group. So I'll just try with our bass drum. And I think when we checked this out earlier, we sort of thought it'd be nice to have two versions of that breakbeat, one with the extra open hats and one without, one like a really simple one. So I'm just going to copy that and take out some of the elements for another version. Might get that double thing on the end there, it's quite nice. Just give that like another colour. Okay, so we've got a couple of different beat patterns. We've got an open hi-hat. Let's just check them all. And we're going to use obviously some of the Nick sounds as well. Let's have a look. Probably need like a strong snare. That's a nice snare there. Just give it a bit more work. And then also the main tom riff. It's quite nice, sort of stripped down a bit. It's very quiet. Let me see why it's so quiet. Okay, so yeah, we're not going to worry too much about, you know, little things at the moment. We just want to get a few ideas in a few loops. So I might just mute some of the other percussion for now. Let's have a look. So we're going to keep that. And one thing we like with our beats we like to do is there's a thing called a sonal, I don't know how you pronounce it, sonal cassis, sort of a bit crusher thing. It's just, we don't use the effect, it's just a good way of clipping the drums to make them a bit sort of fatter sounding. So I'm not going to touch any of that, I'm just going to use the clipping. Because you can squash it quite a bit. I mean, that's too much obviously, but you can sort of just get a little bit of an edge sort of thing. That's alright for our basic sort of beat at the moment. What we sort of decided when we had a listen to this earlier, we're going to base everything around the Nick's tom riff, but we're probably going to put a synth element to it. So it's sort of just changing every offbeat. We're going to sort of add like a little synth sound over the top. But we might keep the last little high ones because they're quite nice. So I'm just going to mute the first few. Keep those last ones. So we wanted something quite fat, quite instant, just to play something, you know, over the top. And we go through sort of phases of using certain kind of synths for their sounds and stuff, you know, then we get a bit bored, so we'll try something else. One synth we haven't used for a long time is the Vanguard, which is a really nice synth. It's quite trancey, and it's quite digital sounding, even though it's based on sort of waveforms. I guess there's some analog sort of waveforms on there, but it's just quite a nice sort of synth to bring out for something instant, something quite fat. If I can get it to work. Let's have a look. And then it comes with some presets. But we're going to just make a sound up based on this preset, which is it's quite trancey, so we're just going to sort of try and make it a bit less trancey. I don't know if that's the way.
Tranceless.
Tranceless, yeah. I mean, it's got a lot of effects on, so I'll take the effects off. It's got some like this fat knob which makes just choruses everything. So we'll turn it off. And it's quite a short envelope on it, so we'll just make it a bit longer. Just backing up there. Then we'll just try and make it a bit sort of nastier, you know, because it's got 3 waves in it and they're all pretty similar. So we're going to just detune some of them. So I'll take them one down an octave. Then one of them will detune by a 5th or a 7th, just to give it that sort of. And it's quite common now to know those up and down 7th chords in those techno sort of housey tunes, but.
Grand Prix thing?
I can play on the guitar.
Oh, can you? Can't do it on the keyboard.
I can do chopsticks.
Can you do chopsticks?
That's all I can do, yeah.
Do chopsticks. Swear. The way my man gets down.
There we go. Actually, our other studio next door, we don't even bother with the keyboard. So it's
Just sit
pretty
there and play
redundant.
chopsticks on a real piano.
That's it. So yeah, we've got a basic sound there. And then we sort of came up with a little melody to follow the tom pattern. Also, it's very loosely based around the tom pattern. Oh. So I'm just going to play the beats. There we go. And this is a bit rough at the moment. It's just. Going to group the synth into a group called Synth, which is quite handy.
What colour is that going to be?
I don't know if you want. It's got an orange colour at the moment. So.
Yeah, alright.
side chaining that sound to give it a bit of a different sort of characteristic. It was so much easier when Cubase started having the side chain input on their compressors. It just saves a lot of time and hassle. So we'll use the bass drum. Actually what we should do, we're going to copy the bass drum to like have a separate side chain bass drum in case we need the side chaining effect in a breakdown or something. So I just copy that. Call that the side chain. And then obviously we don't need to hear that side chain bass drum, so there's no bus, but we can use it for triggering. So we send it to the Vanguard compressor. What we normally do is put a limiter after the compressor, which might seem a bit dark, but it means you can have more sort of side chaining. And a very easy way to sort of fatten out any sound is to use the old Steinberg multi-band compressor. But I think it's changed on the current version of Cubase, but we still like the old plugins because some of the presets, you know, quite nice. And there's one on the old Cubase compressor called FM. And it's just quite nice for fattening it out. So I mean that's cool for that particular sound. Yeah, cool. So we've got our Vanguard riff. It's a pretty simple groove, and we've got the little next tom at the end of the groove sort of thing. So we thought we'd put something to fill in the gaps, just to play on the beat. Something similar to the Vanguard, but not quite the same. So we're just going to load a sound into Contact and have a mess around with that. Big fan of Contact, well, big fan of sampling basically, ever since we used to use the 950, then the Akai 3000. We still use samplers a lot even in software, and the Contact it's not the easiest of instruments to use, but what you can get out of it is very good, you know, very, very versatile. I don't know if people are put off by using samplers, but it's, you know, it's highly recommended, especially a lot of sort of plug-in synths. You can never get that sound. Then if you sample it, you can sort of get a harder edge sound, and, you know, and it doesn't drift, doesn't go out of tune. But it's just worth having a look at, you know. I think there's one that comes with Cubase Halion one. I don't know if that's a sample-based one, but yeah, we came up with a sound I'm going to stick in. It's just a Moog sound, just a couple of sawtooths. So I'm going to find this sound. There you go, similar to the Vanguard, but not quite the same. So I'm going to make it a monophonic, changing the polyphony to 1. It's got a bit of release on it, so I'll just change the envelope. Cool. So we have Contact on the keyboard. So I'm going to play. Basically, we came up with a little riff to go with the Vanguard riff. So I'll play them together. I need to group the side chain to the beats, otherwise it'll mute itself when I solo it. just going to tune up the sound to get it sort of to fit in. And again, I'm going to just sidechain the Moog sound and see what happens. And we use our side chaining bass drum again, which will send that to the contact channel. Just give it loads of side chaining. Side chaining sort of killing the on the beat sound, so I might just increase the attack, or maybe have less side chaining, just so it's separate from the vanguard. Just going to add a limiter as well, just so I can really pump it. And again, we'll bung in the Steinberg multi-band compressor, the old version, because of that nice FM preset. Always sounds good. Doesn't really matter where you put it in the chain. I mean, I think last time I stuck it after the compressor, but I might stick it here now to see if that's. So you don't want to overload the input, so you've got the limiters for keeping everything okay or level-wise. So we'll leave that there. Going to mess around with the tuning of the actual contact sound. Basically we've got our Vanguard sound and I'm working on a Moog sound. I'm just going to tweak the Vanguard one. It's not 100%. It's gone out of tune a bit, so I saved it earlier when I had it sounding just how I wanted it, so I'll load that one in. Cool. And what I've done, I've added some portamento, some glide. Cool. So let's just check that. And let's overlay the contact sounds, the Moog sample. I'm just going to add some portamento to the Moog sound, which is it's a bit antiquated doing this on the contact. I don't know if version 4's changed. Well, the version 3, you have to load in a modulation sort of patch. There we go, let's change that. So you add a modulator, and there's one called glide. And you can change the time and the amount of glide on it. Just going to take it down an octave. That sounds better like that. So there we go, that's a nice little riff. We'll probably use this for like the chorus element of the track. Obviously we'll add some more parts to it later. And we thought we're going to going to get like just a stripped back version for the verse at the moment because the vocalists haven't come down yet. We want to just give them something very rough and nothing too challenging. So I'm going to bounce down the music and see if I can chop out a little bit of it and then use that for the actual verse. So I'm going to do a bounce of the synth group, that's what all the music parts in. Well, I better do a save, I haven't saved it yet, so always good to save, and it's good to like save them in progression so you can go back to an old arrangement for whatever reason, like something crashing or not working. So I've just added 2 on this one. Right, let's bounce down the synth, just a 2-bar bit. Cool, so I've just done a bounce of the synth group, just the first 2 bars. Let's check it, so it's here. Cool. So I mean that is pretty much the chorus for now. So I just want to take the first, just a little bit of that, and just somehow mash it up a little bit and sort of strip it back for the verse. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to use this plugin. It's a free plugin. It's called Glitch, and it's really good. You know, it's not. You can download it off what's the website? illform.org. You know, it's pretty cool just to mess around with. There's a few things that chop up sound, you know, like Live Cut, and there's a few other ones. But this one's cool, and you can save what you're doing, and it's got a random button, so you can just play with the random effects and just creates all sorts of noises. So let's feed it through there and see what happens. It starts off with just random effects, which means it's just choosing any one of these 9 different little effects. But there's one, I've saved one that we've played around with before, and it's quite a simple one.